Has a Hall of Fame. All right. Yeah.
Actually good. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Monday, April 26, 2021 order. At this time, if you please stand for the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. I want to start first, closing out the month of April, so we want to recognize birthdays that we have town employees. We'll be celebrating birthdays in the month of May. We have 3 town employees, starting with our own councilman, Mr. Mike Guinan. He'll be 46 years old on the 2nd of May, so please get out and celebrate. Was it 45? My apologies, 45. So. In addition, Kimberly Reese on the 27th of May, and then with us as well on the 29th, Kathy Rayburn. So happy birthday to those 3 employees. And also a reminder, as always, Mother's Day is on May 9th, so don't forget moms. This evening, our Deputy Town Clerk, Roxanne Ammerman, is filling in this evening for our Town Clerk, Karen Bodine. Director of Finance, Barb Cole, is given the night off. Rich O'Donnell, the incumbent, as the Director of Finance, is here representing the Finance Office here this evening. So board members, for your consideration, the approval of the meeting minutes from April the 12th, 2021. I do want to just mention one correction. Correction needs to be made. There was an error with the title of resolution number 117, which is on, if you have the hard copy of the meeting minutes, they are on page number 12. It originally said the amend resolution 268-20, authorization to enter into a license agreement with TLC. Strike, it should say instead, it should read license agreement extension with TLC Adventures. So that's all we have for corrections on the meeting minutes. Any other comments or questions on the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion with the correction.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. At this time, we'll ask our Deputy Town Clerk to please introduce the abstractive claims.
Manifest 8 for 2021 in the amount of $92,417.24 has been reviewed by the Victor Town Board with the following accounts charged: General Townwide, General Outside Village, Highway Townwide, Sanitary Conveyance Capital Improvement Project, the lighting districts of Fishers, Brookwood Meadows, High Point, Cobblestone, Quail Ridge, Rolling Meadows, Stoneleigh, and Legacy at Fairways. Sanitary Sewer Consolidator Sewer Fund, and the Trust and Agency.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up on the screen, you can see the highlighted items that are in the range of or exceed $10,000. Item number 1 is payment to B&M International. This is for the facility rent for the courts for the month of May. Next is Bluestone Creek Development, rent for Parks and Rec for the month of May. Payment to Lobello Associates, payment to Harris Beach, and then RG&E Gas and Electric. Total of the above-mentioned expenditures is $61,529.44. Total town expenditures minus the previous mentioned expenditures equals $30,887.80. Board members, do you have any questions on this evening's abstract as presented to us?
No.
Hearing none, and entertain a motion to approve the payment thereof.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving to privilege of the floor.
Sorry, Jack, I didn't get them. I didn't get who.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was Councilman Cusimano,
I second.
Councilman Guinan on the second.
Okay, I thought so. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Moving to privilege of the floor, we have Lobella Associates with us. We have in person, Wes Petty, and on the big Zoom screen, we have Mr. Mark Terrian as well. Good evening, Wes. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening.
Down low on the stem, you'll see a green
There we
light.
go, I found it.
Sorry.
All right. No problem. Good evening. I'm here to talk with the board about land use management tools and land use regulations, and specifically, I've got just a brief presentation on the town's commercial zoning district. And Mark is also here on the line with us. About a year ago, Mark put together a memorandum, and hopefully you folks have received that in your package. And we've got some thoughts we wanted to share with you. We had some initial discussions with the supervisor and I think town staff about a year and a half ago or so. And we wanted to talk about some limitations of the existing commercial zoning district and maybe some opportunities that the town could capitalize on. So before we get into Mark's memorandum, we can hit the next slide, if you wouldn't mind. I wanted to talk about the town's current Chapter 211 in the town code, which has to do with zoning regulations, as you know. And zoning distinguishes land designated for different types of uses, right? So you see the existing zoning map on the screen. You've got all these different colors for different zoning districts. You've got, several different type of residential zoning districts, commercial zoning districts, multifamily zoning districts, the light industrial zoning district, and some planned development districts. So we're distinguishing, those colors kind of distinguish in a general way what would be allowed, residential versus commercial or non-residential uses. And zoning regulates the use, the density of use, and the location of development. If we could go to the next slide. I just wanted to focus in a little bit here on the town's sole commercial zoning district. And we can see on the map to the left some areas highlighted in yellow. They're generally around the Route 96 corridor and Route 490 corridor. And if we could take a look, if I don't have a pointer, but if we kind of take a look on the east side of town towards Farmington, on the north side of Route 96, there's a parcel there that's vacant next to Victoria Woods. So that's zoned commercial. And then on the west side of the village, just to the village, west of the village line, we've got a couple of businesses in there. There's a car wash, there's a gas station, and Victor Chevrolet is located in that area just to the west of the village. And then as we get closer to the thruway heading northwest, we've got an area that encompasses the Thirsty Turtle restaurant, Bristol's Greenhouse landscape store, and as we get to the intersection with Main Street Fishers, we've got some restaurants in there, Taco Bell. We've got Denny's. Is Denny's still one of them, or is that?
That's down.
All right, closed. And we've got, I guess there's Burger King there on the corner, Wendy's and Chili's. And then as we go north from the thruway and north from 490, you've got the Walmart Kohl's Plaza and a series, a bunch of whole other commercial entities in there, restaurants and shops. And then certainly a little bit farther north, you've got Panera Bread, and then you get into the Longhorn Steakhouse area. There's a City Mattress, and then Eastview Mall and Cobblestone Court, where the location of the new Hobby Lobby facility. And then if you look towards the hamlet of Fishers on the extreme west side of that map, just south of the thruway, there's actually a small commercial area there that's zoned commercial. And as you can see, section 211.22 of the code, there's a broad range of commercial goods and services that are afforded to those commercial zoning districts. For example, this isn't an exhaustive list, but you can see bed and breakfast, healthcare and institutional uses, not-for-profit, essential services, retail commercial, shopping centers, restaurants, and non-retail commercial. If we could go to the next slide.
Wes, can I ask a question?
Yes,
for you
sir.
Before you leave that?
Yep.
So, just for my own clarification, so DeMarco's property where the Fisher's Landing stuff has been discussed, that's not commercial property? So
No,
I'm-
that's-
That's like, I see Lane Road, that's the curved road coming down, right? Right there.
Correct.
There's Lane Road.
Yep.
And so that property going west, right along 96 there, that's like the Fisher's Landing project, right?
That is.
And that's not commercial property?
That is zoned, I believe it's zoned commercial/light industrial. So there is a zoning district that's kind of allows not only the commercial, but some limited light industrial uses. And I believe that's the zoning district that's,
That's what that is.
And that's
Yeah.
probably what most of the other stuff is along 96 then, is what you're saying, is going to be light industrial?
that's right. And if Susie, if you wouldn't mind maybe going back to the existing zoning map slide, right? So there you can kind of see
Yeah.
that brownish,
Yeah, I see it.
yep, commercial, light industrial zoning district.
Now a lot of this obviously predates probably everybody sitting on this town board except maybe Jack, but I mean, how, I'm just saying it's in terms of how it came about
Yeah.
like that. I'm saying, I would think all of 96 would be commercial zone. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, and I'm wondering by happenstance why it didn't occur, I mean, that was kind of the push during the comprehensive plan to have commercial development, light commercial down that way.
Yep.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's
I'm just-
okay. So the town code, chapter 211, from what I understand, there's a little call out in the code that mentions that this zoning was initially adopted in 1992.
Okay,
There I don't know for sure, we could do some research with the town, but there may have been some form of zoning prior to that. And certainly there have been amendments since 1992.
sure.
Yeah,
And that's how you get the different parcels, right?
right, right. You
Okay.
got it.
Okay.
All right, so if we can go to the next slide. So this, I talked a little bit about the uses in this slide, right? The types of uses that are allowed in the commercial zoning district. And the next slide forward, if we could, Susie. Here, I wanted to just kind of point out some generalizations for the dimensional requirements or the dimensional standards that this district limits development to. So there's a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet, minimum lot frontage of 100 feet, and so I've got on there, a lot depth of 200 feet. And so the maximum, and then there are some maximums that are prescribed here as well. Number of stories, 2 stories, building height, 35 feet. So it's either 2 stories or 35 feet, whichever works out for the developer. And then the maximum lot coverage is 40%, okay? Let's see, what slide? Let's hit the next slide if we could, Susie. So a while back, and I guess it might have been 2019, we kind of realized that the mall of today might not be the mall of tomorrow, right? If we could there we go, that's the slide we're looking for. So Mark helped us develop an Eastview Mall mixed-use overlay district, okay? The town already has some overlay districts present. For example, the Route 96 251 overlay district. And then there's also a second zoning map, which isn't in this presentation, but there's a residential overlay zoning district as well that's been part of the regulations for quite a while. So this Eastview Mall mixed-use overlay district deals with uses only, okay? It would require the submission of a mixed-use plan for a potential project site, subject to review and approval by the town board. So the town board would be able to approve a mixed-use development, mixed-use overlay. And that would allow additional flexibility with respect to the mix of uses. Maybe there's a dynamic type of use that creates some form of synergy in the community or in a neighborhood that you would want to see. So the existing commercial zoning district really limits, or, it allows for certain types of uses, but maybe there's something that we haven't thought of, that a developer, a creative developer brings into the town and says, we'd really like to do this. Maybe the mixed-use overlay would allow for that. If we could go to the next slide, Susie. So the mixed-use overlay district that's been created and is part of the town code now, today, you can see the boundary here, right? It includes Eastview Mall, it includes the theater. It does not include, for example, the BJ's building, and it does not include the Stickley Furniture store. It does not include the PDD to the north. The PDD encompasses the Home Depot, Target, Old Navy, that area. It deals with, so this mixed-use overlay, again, deals with uses of the property only, not the dimensional characteristics of the property. And this property today is still subject to your underlying commercial zoning district with regard to dimensional limitations. So they are limited to the 2 stories or 35 feet maximum. If we could go to the next slide, Susie. So what we're thinking of suggesting to the town for your consideration and deliberation is a new commercial zoning district, a commercial center zoning district. And this is the same boundary, what we're proposing would be the same boundary as the mixed-use overlay. It provides for the same underlying uses as the existing commercial zoning district. So we're not changing any of the allowable uses or the allowable uses with special use permit. But this area would, could make benefit of that mixed-use overlay. This new zoning district would provide for expanded opportunities by not limiting the height to 2 stories or 35 feet. And the town board, this is where the town board would choose the height limitation that would be established in the zoning code for this new zoning district. And if we think about it, if we don't need to go back to the previous slide that showed the aerial and the yellow highlights, but if you think about some of those areas we talked about, next to Victoria Woods, or that place over in the hamlet of Fishers, those commercial zoning districts there are the exact same commercial zoning district that manages, the land use and the dimensional standards for Eastview Mall, right? They're very different areas of town. The neighborhoods are very different, right? So maybe it's not, maybe it's time to consider or look at a new zoning district for the mall. Because, the characteristics there in this commercial center are very different than Main Street coming into the village and, over towards Farmington and the hamlet of Fishers. I think we could go to the next slide. So this shows a comparison of the dimensional standards for the existing commercial zoning district in comparison with this concept that we have for a commercial center zoning district. So the minimum lot size today is 30,000 square feet. The suggested, or the draft regulation that we've assembled for your deliberation is 435,600 square feet or 10 acres. That's the minimum lot size. Lot frontage is 150 feet. That's the current existing. Lot frontage for the proposed zoning district is 500 feet. Lot depth is 200 feet versus the proposed 500 feet. And the front yard requirement is 80 feet today. And I think this particular line, I have a typo there. I believe the front yard requirement in the draft regulation that we've provided is 100 feet, not 200, which is shown in the chart here. Rear yard 60 versus 100. And the side yard requirements for the existing commercial zoning district are 5 feet or 25 feet if you are adjacent to a residential property or a residential zoning district. Whereas for the proposed commercial or the conceptual commercial center zoning district would be 50 feet. For maximums, the number of stories, we've got 2 for the existing commercial zoning district and potentially 6 stories for a commercial center zoning district. Or if we look at it in terms of feet, 35 feet is the existing limitation, or potentially 90 feet. Now, this is just something that we've put down on paper. It's not something that the town board has to accept. I think, maybe that's something that the board might want to consider is, well, if we are going to allow an increase in height, what's that height going to be? What's most appropriate for this location? Accessory structures, we've suggested maintaining the same 35-foot height limit for accessory structures, and then also maintain the maximum building coverage of the lot at 40%. And then what's the next slide? Is the next slide, okay. Okay, so the new commercial center zoning district encompasses, as we've kind of spoken about already, the existing movie theater, the department stores, Von Maur, JCPenney, Dick's House of Sport. Encompasses 161 acres, 1.3 million square feet of space, building space. There's 140 million in assessment, and I think that's based on 2018 figures, and there's significant sales tax revenues are generated in this particular location. So, you know, we don't necessarily have a project waiting in the wings that might take advantage of a new zoning district like this, but maybe a developer like Wilmerite would be able to conceive of something, right? I know in the town of Henrietta, for example, their mall, I haven't been too close, I haven't been studying it too close, but I think there was an idea to put a medical complex in
It has been approved.
Marketplace Mall, right? You know, maybe something like that would happen here. Maybe this, instead of being just a retail mall, maybe it would be some sort of regional destination. That's not really the word I was looking for, but like a campus, some sort of campus. Maybe there's some medical mixed in there with this mixed-use overlay that's been created. Maybe there's, you know, potential for, what's the term? Convention, not really a convention center, but a hotel convention facility, you know, that, you know, might make this area a little more dynamic than what it is today. And, you know, makes it relevant with the changing economy, changing world, changing, you know, just the evolution of the town. So, and maybe that commercial zoning district from 1992 is ready for a bit of an update. So with that, I'd like to open it up to questions or comments. I think that's the last slide there, and happy to talk through this with you.
I actually have a point I want to make, but I'm going to need some help from one of our board members who wears a different hat during the day. So we'll use 90 feet as you have in there. Councilman Cusimano, what is the your ladder truck height at this point?
The aerial ladder is 100 feet, and I guess for reference, 100 feet seems like it would cover a building of more stories than, you know, 6 stories at 90 feet, you know, would maybe at initial glance seem like it might be doable, but really when you look at, you know, where the truck is set and what reach you actually have. So just to give a reference to that, the new 4-story structure on High Point, I went up and did some testing up there.
Yeah.
Depending on where the truck is set up, especially on the back side or the downgrade side, it's actually about 5 stories because they have the parking entrance. So that's not reachable from the roadway to the roof. So we're really limited in that structure to making sure placement is on, you know, the 4-story side on the front or you know, both basically the face from the parking lot sides that we could reach the roof from. Because when you think about structural firefighting, you know, you're supposed to be, you know, at a collapse, you know, you have to set up a collapse zone, so you can't really be up right against the building. So that 4-story structure in High Point really kind of pushes our limitations on the use of a 100-foot aerial ladder.
Okay. Well, it's too bad I didn't think of this when we were doing that project. So here's my thoughts. I want to propose this. Certainly we know this is a fire district that, and whether it's, you know, it's 2 districts today, but down the road, hopefully, it'll be 1 district. And actually, to Councilman Condon's point about the commercial zoning area, I think that needs to be more defined and all under one, because a combined fire districts combined in this town, then you can then create a commercial fire tax district. But they'd all have to be under the same zoning classification. So that needs to be corrected. Again, not necessarily for tomorrow, but down the road. In the intent that at some point they would merge, okay? My point is, and again, I'm sorry, wasn't thinking of this a number of years ago, but, and I have no problem with the 90 feet, but what I'm thinking is I think we need some type of financial incentive in there that doesn't go to the town, that would actually go to the fire district to offset the cost of equipment that they would have to purchase or maintain over time. And again, I don't, legally,
That's the biggest cost, really, what I was thinking, the same thing that you're saying. I think the fire protection on a structure, 6 stories, right now, neither fire district would be equipped to handle that.
whether it's so much per floor, a set dollar amount, I'm willing, I'm open-minded. And again, I don't,
You could do that through
I-
a host community.
okay,
Any specific. That created that kind of.
do me a favor, turn your mic, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, everyone, to
That
help
created
Roxy out.
that kind of need, you could at that point, as part of the planning board or the town board's review of that proposal, require a host community agreement that would
Okay.
set aside or ask the applicant to pay funds or set aside funds to the fire district to purchase or replace your existing ladder with a ladder that would meet the need of the structures.
I mean, so for the general area, for the knowledge of the board members here, a 100-foot aerial ladder is, you don't really see too many ladders, especially in this region where you're extending beyond that. So, if you look at, some of, for example, the high-rises in Rochester, obviously, they're not reaching the tops of those buildings. So, there's in the design of those larger high-rise structures, there's proper things set in place so that you don't necessarily need to reach the top of the building, but you have connections and stairwells, and, the layout is such that the fire service personnel can reach those upper floors and effect rescues, put out fires, without necessarily being able to use that aerial ladder.
You got water lines going up there that you can tap into and
So, I
that
mean,
kind of stuff.
to say that we couldn't reach the top of the building certainly wouldn't preclude the opportunity to do a development like that, but it certainly, it would be obviously a first for us in this area, and there would certainly be some, pretty important work that would be done on the emergency services side to make sure that we were prepared, trained, and ready to take care of an incident that we couldn't necessarily reach the upper floors with the ladder from the outside.
My experience representing in other areas of the state, developers of projects far larger in size than what's proposed in this. Typically also, the local municipality will ask that a particular type of fire suppression system be installed in the building. In the instance of where you have a lateral that can't reach the top, then you have either a duplicative sprinkler system on the top levels of the building. So in case of a fire, that you have, backup source or added source of water to suppress fire at higher levels. I've definitely have experienced that type of review and those types of conditions on projects far larger than the one suggested in this draft code.
Okay. Maybe we find some way to get some type of language in there to, as Frank mentioned, there's a host agreement or something that would really offer public safety, an opportunity to offset some of their costs. Councilman Cusimano, we're talking specific fire. You mentioned ambulance, paramedics, anything like that along those lines? Or is that all part of where a department would break down the training and as far as what they would need,
I mean, specifically at cost, I mean, when you deal with larger structures, it's really more so on the fire rescue side that you'd see, where funding could assist in.
And I know, unfortunately as well, getting a ladder up there is one thing, but it's manpower. For every floor, I'm sure there's X number of firemen needed and things of that nature.
And I mean, there are a tremendous number of logistics that go into it, other than just the height of the building. I mean, if you look, for example, at the Hampton Inn is a 3-story building on 96, and, the access driveway around the rear side of that structure is pretty close to the building. So not necessarily a safe place to put a ladder. So that's just a 3-story building. So, the height of the building is only one consideration in a list of them. So, for example, a 5 or a 6-story structure with proper parking lots, proper access points with a ladder, you're able to get a truck to a safe and close location. That might ultimately be easier and you know, you can accomplish that far more doable than a three-story structure that has poor layout of parking lots, et cetera. So it all really depends on the layout and what the plan, you know, what the planning process would look like.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments and your professional insight. Other board members, any comments, you have a sense on this height?
No, I just like the idea that we're considering it, giving us that option as you start to grow the mall in maybe a different direction. Because, you know, we all talked about the brick and mortar kind of going away a little bit. You could envision, to your point about a hotel type setup.
Yeah.
Could you go 5 stories or 6 stories or whatever that number is, where a lot of other developments that I've seen in other parts of the country, it's not unusual to have, you know, a 4, 5, 6-story hotel located in a development that has a lot of retail, restaurants, et cetera. So I can see us doing that. The other thing, Drew, as part of that design, let's say, wouldn't it make sense then too to have like really close fire hydrants as part of that design?
Yeah, I mean, that Eastview Mall property right now, I mean, has a very good layout of hydrants. And that really typically, there's good water supply there. That typically is not a huge issue. I mean, when you get into larger buildings, there's going to be built-in fire pumps anyways. I mean,
Right.
all the facilities at High Point have built-in fire pumps because they're at elevation and they're larger buildings. So that all goes into that planning.
Because, I mean, I could foresee, you know, future state, anything along that 490 corridor, if you put a large building there, I wouldn't think, number one, I don't think it's an eyesore. Number two, that might be kind of the best place to put it on the back side of the mall. So, you know, then it encourages people to kind of stop in and see it. But I know we travel a lot for athletics, and when we do, you stay in a hotel, it's similar to that setup. Like right now where Regal is in the mall, I've been to places where that's a hotel. And they have one on that side of the mall and one on the other side. And it's usually like Spring Hill Suites or whoever, you know, and that's just, it's great for the kids when they travel because then you have restaurants availability and a lot of places have arcades or other things for them to do at the mall when they have that downtime. So I've seen that in multiple locations.
Yeah, there's no question, this certainly a draft zoning change here, consideration for us is something that's, again, we've had meetings with the leadership at the mall, the ownership there, and certainly they know that from a retail, you know, they have to also make some changes as well. And, you know, so I'm talking to them about a county service as well, so that type of thing, you know, so it's not all retail. Any further questions for Wes? Nice job. Mark? Anyone?
I'd like to make a comment. First of all, it's an excellent and very helpful discussion. I appreciate it very much. When we put those numbers together, I don't think we really knew what the right numbers were, even though we were more than 100% convinced that it no longer made sense to use the same set of dimensional requirements to regulate a 160-acre site like Eastview Mall and other sites in town that might be as small as an acre or two. So I think we were very convinced that we needed to make a change. What the change might be was probably less clear. So I have a suggestion. It involves a little bit of technical jargon that maybe only Wes and Frank will fully appreciate, but I think one way to deal with this might be to identify a threshold. Maybe it's 40 feet or 45 feet or 50 feet. Maybe it's a number of stories. We can talk about that later. But identify a threshold below which these issues don't come up, and then make heights above that subject to a special use permit. So below that height, above the height that's required now, below this threshold height, it's permitted as of right, and you only need site plan approval from the planning board. If you're above that height or above that number of stories, whatever threshold we select, in addition to requiring site plan approval, you also require a special use permit from the planning board, and we use that special use permit mechanism to invoke all these other requirements, whether it's a host community agreement or particular building code requirements or, you know, standpipe systems, whatever it might be. We use that to trigger the need to go into those issues.
Thank you, Mark.
Jack, question, if we don't mind shifting gears, unless there's someone else that has something to share on this, but one of the things that I did want to take advantage of while Mark was here, and if we've run out of time on the privilege of the floor, that's fine. I wanted to follow up on Mark's presentation from the last meeting where we were talking about residential density overlays. And if the board members have had an opportunity to think a little bit further on a course of action that they might like to take in that regard, or if they have any additional questions, or if you need more information from us, we'd be happy to, provide you with more information. But we're here today if you've got anything you want to share in that regard.
And before, I want a couple comments on that. So
Okay.
I do appreciate you taking advantage of Mark on that. So the sewer master plan, we went through that. We want to hold off on the adoption until we get some further feedback from the board members. Now, board members, just so you know, so Pump Station 7 is over on East Victor Road. Any projects along East Victor Road impacts Pump Station 7. So the Victor Jeep Chrysler dealership would be one. Blue Mount, David Reedman's current project. So there is some land there. At the last meeting, Bob Cantwell presented, David Reedman was here. So rather than, we know we're going to have to make some upgrades to that pump station eventually, but what I'd rather do is make those pump station upgrades only once. So in other words, I would like to know sooner than later what the biggest yield or build-out would be for those vacant parcels. I think we've kind of felt, this board has been pretty strong about, listen, we said okay to Blue Mount across County Road 41, but we really don't see it heading westbound. I think that, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So it would come down to what David Reedman proposed, and then I think there's another parcel, I'm going to use north, heading back towards Route 96. So we would very soon, I'd like to know what's the, so in other words, only make those upgrades to Pump Station 7 once, rather than, okay, based on Blue Mount, Victor Chrysler, we're making some upgrades here in the next, year or less. And then down the road, when there's other development, we'll have to go back again. So I'd rather just do it once. So it is kind of important that I get a sense of what your thoughts are on what Bob Cantwell, David Reedman presented in the last meeting. And then there's that other parcel. Mark has talked about it. We have the ability to, say do nothing, do it parcel by parcel. I guess in this case, I'm asking for a little extra. I'm asking you to look at two different parcels, actually. But the point is that Mark has provided us with, an option of doing nothing, increasing density, or decreasing density. And I think many of us, we felt that the last thing we want to do is hurt any landowner by decreasing density. And I may be wrong with, I think that was I think that's the way to go, not decrease density. I think that would hurt a landowner, I think. So I'm looking for some feedback on Bob Cantwell, David Reedman, that parcel. And again, we don't have to agree that it's, I don't know, is it 19 homes, 20 homes? And then there was that other parcel there. And then I know what you're looking for is, there's other areas as well. I think there's some north this way, and then I think over on Strong Road area, Willis, over there as well.
Yes.
And we did talk about that. I think that we
Yeah, because I'll tell you, the Zoom, for me, and maybe it's hearing aids and whatnot, I didn't hear the presenters well, so.
we talked about that before, that we want to make it, I think, more modular, where you don't just bring the bare minimum up to account for one parcel, like on 251 Strong Road and going beyond Strong Road. We want to do whatever we do, make it so that the cost is bared by future development and that, so that we don't just give too little now to have to make the next guy. We want the pump stations to be able to accommodate a bigger district, not just to accommodate one addition to a district. And I think we talked about that for both the County Road 41 and for 251 going out past Strong Road to,
Yeah, I remember that, yeah, you're right.
my opinion would be if it needs a pump station, we need to look at it sooner than later and make that part of the overall plan.
Because I think the existing pump station 7, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it can handle the Chrysler Jeep dealership. It cannot handle Bluemont or any other build on there. And am I pretty accurate with that?
So we did evaluate Bluemont and Victor Chrysler, as well as is it Southgate Hills?
Yeah.
That's over there?
Property.
So with the Victor Chrysler deal, so Bluemont was approved before Victor Chrysler, okay? So that, we know that PS7 can accommodate Bluemont, and with Victor Chrysler, it's pretty much at capacity. There's really, my understanding from Mike Schafran's calculations and interpretation, that anything beyond Victor Chrysler there's insufficient capacity in Pump Station 7.
So that development last week, and again, you and I and Kim had met with David Reedman and his team, we told them of our new sewer fee.
Yep.
So he's on board. He actually was applauded that. He thought it was a good idea and stuff like that, rather than the last developer in town. As Jeff Smith actually has been very positive about that as well. So it's, as I told you, I'd like to, before we make upgrades to that pump station, I'd like to know what the full build-out would be. But for that to occur, I think you need some direction from us. Is that correct? So that's
Yep.
Mr. Latine's property?
Charlie Lindine's estate, yeah.
Might be. I can't remember the name now. It's escaping me.
It did sell, but it was originally the Lintine property.
Was that the one Mr. Reedman presented on, and then another one north?
It's actually
Lentine
slightly,
is on the east side of,
he's northeast of the existing, first part of Bluemont, or.
of Southgate.
Southgate.
Yeah, he's on the east side of East Victor Road,
Okay.
around the bend, right? Yeah. So that's not counted in there. That's not part of Reedman's
No.
21 houses that he wants to put in there.
No, but, if we had a,
But you're right. So, yeah, I mean, you gotta be thinking that if the sewer line goes up to Bluemont eventually someday, and, what is the capacity at R2 or
Yeah,
R3
he's
or
not,
whatever?
it's not part of the district that was established, but he's banking on what he did for the first phase as being adequate for what he's doing.
correct. But maybe, great time to bring this up, but I guess maybe maybe we need to have the maps back in front of us and
Yep.
and do some, have that kind of conversation again.
Yeah, let's do that. That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
I can bring those back, and we can circle around and,
Why don't we do that, okay? And we'll get that information, and so the board's all aware of it.
all right, yeah.
The other thing is, and it probably wouldn't change much, was, because we don't actually know if Bluemont's gonna happen, now that the district's been approved. So we're doing it hypothetically that they were gonna incur the cost to bring it up there, but should that not happen, we still have to be ready for something that may, in the future, and it may be different, or what it may be, but the overall output of that line needs to be significant for whatever happens.
Yeah.
Did they become active again on Bluemont on that, an application or anything that you're aware of it? I don't know if it's anything that,
I am still working on the drainage improvement district expansion there, but I'm not aware of any potential changes. I haven't heard of anything.
Council, did you not mention to me that, or maybe it was another parcel that was for sale? I think I had heard that Bluemont, the owner was trying to market it as well.
Well, the rest of it.
Oh, the rest?
What they kept out of that original parcel that we
The part
talked
that was in
about.
the town of Farmington, that was,
Yeah.
the part where the horse farm has been remarketed, I think
Yes.
it has been sold.
Yes.
And part of the 100 acres that he put into his total
Reason.
plan is being utilized by the people about the other parcels, so I don't know that he still has, he may or may not still have the 100 acres he needed for what he proposed. That's why I said I'm not sure what he's doing, but I think you can see where they're building on both sides there in the back, and so I don't know if it's gonna change, we just don't know, because part of the whole plan was that he wasn't gonna incur the cost to move it, and he may not be doing it now, so.
Well, that's that's the unknown, is that, we granted Smith that extension, and Reedman might end up paying for it, right? I mean, if the sewer line has been extended, which the board approved that sewer line extension, it's not going to be on our dime. I mean, Reedman obviously realizes that the extension's been granted, and he might end up, being the coffer on that.
Or he can, I'm just thinking out loud, that he could, it would be less money for him to hook in where he already has it, to go less distance than it would be to hook into a line that went 3/4 of a mile beyond him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. And he's got to get the other side of the road too, because he's going up to the Auburn Trail.
Right.
So we do have somebody in our office working on a letter of credit with just this earthwork component of that letter of credit, so that might.
Bluemont.
Yeah, for Bluemont. So we might want to check with Kim in her office, but there's potentially maybe something going on there.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, because I know when we met with David Reedman, I had asked him timeline, and it was for this very reason, just to know how much time we had before we'd have to make those upgrades.
Okay.
To Pump Station 7. Okay, so let's plan on, and again, we won't set it tonight, but we'll look for, maybe it's some type of workshop prior to a town board meeting, something like that.
I think that would be very productive. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions for Wes or Mark? Mark, thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Moving to public comments and concerns. Any members of the public? Susie, do you have any members of the public with you? Okay. Moving to reports of town officials, and I want to start with economic development, and actually I have some discussion regarding the Victor Community Development Office. I know there's some emails going around during my absence, and again, I'll be the first to say my apologies to all the members if I didn't make it clear from day one that it would be the intention of having the Victor Economic Development Office and the Chamber under one, under this roof. So I know Kathy put together a synopsis that she sent out with information. So at this time, I don't, if there's any questions that board members have regarding this relationship.
Yeah, I do, for sure. So, yeah, I was not aware that the intent was for the chamber to move into town hall physically. I understood about the umbrella and then that would make it easier potentially. But, the chamber's mission is to serve its members, right? Which is the people that decide to become members of the chamber or partners, as they call them, not necessarily to serve the town of Victor, right? So that's a concern of mine. And then when the proposal came out about equipment, whether or not it's computers, phones, whatever, I have a real concern about the taxpayers funding that for a group that, again, mission is to serve their members, not necessarily to serve the town of Victor or the Victor business community per se. So that's really what kind of threw up my red flag. Well, like, whoa, what are we doing here?
Okay. Kathy, I don't know if you have anything you want to add or.
Where we left off. They still are membership. We're not merging financially silos under this umbrella. Are going after. I am not deviating from servicing all of the town and village just because most of the time working in our favor. Get it? It makes sense to them. And again, I just want to make clear, not merging bank accounts. There, if there's expenses from the chamber separate, absolutely doable and something that we were looking at. And I'm honestly struggling a little bit trying to remember where we ended up with the phone.
Yeah,
They're
they're,
gonna bring their phone.
forward the chamber number to one of the town phones to call anybody calling in a number would still be that 742-1476. Quote for office phone is from Realcomm, $479. Let's see.
There was one thing in there we were talking about splitting the cost. I mean, if that's an issue.
Kathy, I'm sorry, can you make sure that that mic is on?
Yeah, there should be a little green button.
Light
There's
green?
a little gray button.
I got it.
Tap the head there.
You're on.
Thank you.
So I appreciate the concerns. I want to address those. I don't want to go into this with ill feelings about it. We can definitely that, like phones, we can go back to having the number forwarded and using, I think we can doing something probably. He is an easy fix.
Well, we would still need one of our phones on our system to forward it to. Makes more sense than their phones. Either way, something involved.
They're not opposed to paying whatever it is that they need to pay for. That was I just want to say, as far as, Amy and I, when we came here, with the umbrella concept, that's what was always in our head. Did I write it out that they were going to be under the same roof? No, but that's bring people together. One-stop shop. Whatever I can do to ease your minds, will tell you that it's been very well received. Less redundancy already. There's less businesses.
So, no, the feedback I'm getting is there's more confusion. Okay?
As far as
The role of the town specifically. Now, does it go back to the Mickey Finn's thing? Of course. So they look at our published, so the LDC has their meetings published in this, it says it's part of the town board. Okay? So people are confused, saying, wait a minute, the LDC, you're saying it's not the town buying potentially the purchase, but this here says Town of Victor, meeting dates for boards and holiday closings, and right in there, it says the Victor LDC. It doesn't say it's not part of it. It's pretty much confusing because people are saying, oh, the LDC's buying it, they're part of the town. So the feedback I'm getting, and additionally, is that obviously you're the executive director of the LDC, plus you work for the town as economic development. Mike's on the town board. He's also a director of the LDC. Vince Petrone, who has done some acquisition stuff for the town, is also a director on the LDC. So all these little things that are crossing over, it is confusing to people. So, you're saying it's not, but I'm hearing from other business owners that they're saying it is confusing. I'm not sure what the town's doing, because I think it looks like, and it's optics, it looks like the town's doing this, or the town is at least supporting this in a way because of all those different things that are meshed across. In some,
The town supports
So-
economic development and the LDC, and that was the whole reason why we came to the town. We were at 5 West Main, it was very disjointed. Didn't even know what the LDC was. Now, because of this joint effort and with the town, being able to work under this roof and with and planning department, we've made a lot more strides as far as being able to deliver on economic. It's only getting better. This is a, you know, a cutting edge concept. Been done anywhere else, I mean, not in New York State yet, been done in other regions, been done successfully. Yeah, there's a learning curve involved. There was a learning curve involved when the LDC, they wanted the LDC to grow and start handling more, not just village businesses. And so it was townwide. We had to work through that for a minute. I'm just asking the board to look at this a little bit outside the box. Yes, there's always going to be some confusion, but I will tell you the business we're talking to, and when we do the outreach and sit and explain it to them, I'm like, this makes perfect sense. Have we gotten to every single business and talked to them? Sure, there's still some.
Well, let me chime in if I can. One Facebook posting is not confusion if they look at what the LDC has accomplished, and especially through COVID. And in no way, shape, or form is the LDC trying to, we are independent of the chamber. The chamber is on their own. We're trying to boost the chamber from they had weakened. Our businesses within the town had weakened. They didn't have a place to go to. The Village Merchants Group disbanded. We were reaching out, trying to reestablish and help the chamber. And things that they do and things that the LDC does can coexist and can help each other. But if there's any, I've not heard, other than one stupid Facebook post, anything that amounts to confusion. Now, during this whole COVID thing, and I've never seen the action be more, as far as inquiries coming into the LDC, I've never seen any more than I have in the last year and a half to 2 years, whichever way we go on this, and what we've done, how we've helped people, how we've loaned out a few $100,000 to people within the village to enhance what they have, to try and bring people to the group. If people want to refer to Mickey Finn's as an item, we've looked at every single vacant building and property within the village and in town to try and reach out in the same way to. The LDC reached out to try and inquire about not just a restaurant, but 10 acres within the village that is struggling. And the owner of that property came to us, like a lot of people have in the town and in the village, because of this pandemic situation. And what am I going to do? And am I going to go out of business? And we were doing nothing more than due diligence, and that's what we're supposed to do. That's what the LDC is supposed to do. We did every single thing that was asked of us as a group, and it's never been any better. So if there's confusion, I'd love to address anything or anybody's concerns about it, because the only confusion I ever saw or heard in the entire time I've done this was over one stupid Facebook post that wasn't true.
Understood.
Nothing ever else, and it overshadows all the good that's been done.
And I'm not
Kathy's being a little-
criticizing anything that has been done in the past at all.
Chamber is the chamber, and LDC is the LDC.
And economic development is something else. So now you have 3 different groups, correct? Under one umbrella.
We could,
Before that, there was more.
No.
Under one umbrella. That's what we're trying.
Right, and there is some, I'm just telling you, because you're telling me it's fine, it's one issue. You're telling me it's fine for the people you talk to. I'm telling you, as a town board member, people are coming to me and saying, you're our representative, this is what we think, and you need to hear that feedback. And yeah, sometimes we get negative feedback. And did it all firestorm around one Facebook post? Of course it does. That's what social media does today. Okay, but that starts adding people are asking questions now because of that. And I understand, that's the spark that started the flame, I get it. Okay, but you all need to be aware that some people think it is confusing with the chamber moving now under the umbrella, and the fact that, okay, I'm a business owner, I decide not to join the chamber or become a partner. I'm not gonna pay the money that they're asking to do that, okay. But do I get less services now because they're under the umbrella? They don't know. You're saying they won't, and I agree.
Those are all things that still need communication.
Understood.
Still need, the story still needs to be told. No matter, we've done a press release and we've issued a magazine, done our commercials, but I've been telling the LDC story. People still don't get it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't end, just because we formed this entity and we're totally, there's people that, right on this street that, not because I'm not out there knocking on the doors, they don't get it. So it has to, story has to be continuously told. I'm not opposed to talking to people with issues with it. I want the feedback. We never get anybody coming to our meetings, anybody asking questions. So much as I don't like the negative feedback, I've got to deal with it. I welcome it because then
So let me ask a different question regarding the chamber. We can have anybody we want in here inside the town building? That's legally okay? Any entity. So let's say, future state, some other group is housed in here. Let's say we put, Parks and Rec has an office here 20 years from now. And they decide that we want to bring Ontario Pathways in and bicycle guys and whatever. We want to have them in the building because it'll work out under an umbrella of Parks and Rec. Is there any issue with that from a legal standpoint, that we're bringing in private entities into a town hall? Do you know?
As ITs, as tenants?
Well, they're not tenants because they're not paying rent, correct? But they're using the town hall address,
Well,
they're using the town-
The town hall is a public building,
correct?
so invitees are allowed to use the town, subject to the terms and conditions that the town sets for it.
Okay.
So it's a public building. And as long as someone wants to come and use it, and they use it in compliance with terms and conditions, that's for such use.
You could set something up that they paid rent. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
could, I mean, obviously, the chamber charges a fee, Amy gets a salary, I mean, she's the executive director and all that. I mean, there could be a fee associated with her sharing some office space upstairs and,
You could ask them to reimburse the cost of utilities.
Sure,
or
helping to keep the lights on, I mean, you could, I mean, that certainly would be a nice counter argument to say,
100%.
just as an example, we have a draft of a memo of understanding. Chamber and the LDC, only because Chamber has funding, a certain of funding to our operating fund, nothing like that. Maybe what we do, maybe that's not right.
I mean, I think in terms of what we've done over the course of time, is that we have, many of our nonprofits have to pay to rent our facilities, we, like Jack said, with our Boy Scouts and our veterans and folks that want to use the municipal lodge or use municipal park or the Bluebird or whatever. I mean, our residents pay that in addition to being able to come in, and then at times they come in and have a public meeting or can sign up, and a lot of our commissions and our volunteer organizations use this facility.
Establish a one-time.
That's what I'm,
such use.
yeah, right,
To
right,
cover those expenses
right.
for allowing them to.
Yeah, I get I understand the concept. I don't have any issue with that. It probably would have been smart in hindsight to publicly say eventually, we are going to be housed together in here, you know, when you and Amy were here together.
Because then we could have further discussion, all right, what does that look like,
Yeah, right, right.
you know?
Right. But I think I still support the work and the concept of where it's going and what it wants to become. But I don't think it would be a bad idea to have some sort of a reimbursement fee for the chamber to be using some of our office space and paying for, setting the phone up and all that stuff. And I get they're gonna be bringing their own paper in and paying the same % copy that we pay and all that. I get that. They'll have their own counter, have their own code, log in. I get all that. Insurance and those types of things. But I think that logistics, with Jack and with finance, with Rich, I'm sure an amicable agreement can be worked out.
And that's the other part we gotta remember is finance, because in an audit, let's make sure that everything's, that
Yeah.
you're aware
Yeah.
from that perspective. So when we do get our annual audits, that everything kind of lines up.
Our home was aware. I have to tell you, I have be off on this, and what I was talking about. They did, so, in hindsight, should I have spelled that out? Hopefully, I'm hearing that we can fix it. Get something drafted.
Kathy, where is it at right now? It just is so in the process of doing this transition, where does it currently stand?
As far as them, as far as Amy moving.
Yeah, them coming over. I guess with working between the two entities, three entities, where exactly does it stand?
So currently, that December, at least that, am I not? Who started to be 3 hours a week. She started out as an intern with the chamber. She does some of the rest of her time. She's in my office yet. So Amy's basically waiting for me to give her, go ahead.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, just the timelines and where.
I had already talked to her, with approval, had talked to Edgewick about nothing in my office.
Okay.
Supervisor, I have a question for you. Again, I'm ignorant on this, so bear with me. But we provide a financial contribution to the LDC in our annual budget from the town. I think the village does not.
Correct.
Because they probably believe that because they pay taxes, that's covered with their, covered through us. So, having said that, the question is that as we work hard for our economic development, and we work hard with the LDC, the village becomes a direct beneficiary of the improvements that we make and continue to keep these storefronts open and inviting new businesses into our village and getting people to come to town and come into the village. Does the village get additional revenue on like reimbursement from the county and sales tax? Does that divvied up, or does all the sales tax come to the town? How does that work?
So the town gets their share of sales tax, and the village gets their share of sales tax as well. Separate, theirs was down. They had an increase on the recent one, but a slight. So they get their own separate based on the village businesses, gas stations, restaurants, et cetera. we pay for the LDC out of the A fund, so the village residents are taxed through the A fund. Originally, the original concept was, to your point, a share, 50% town, 50% village. Unfortunately, the village fathers thought it was in their best interest that the LDC, the directors, Kathy Rayburn's 100% focus should be on village businesses only. That was my bone of contention with them. And then in a meeting with Mayor Holden at that time, he was penny pinching, and he opened the door through a conversation I had. And I said, you could leave here today and not have to concern yourself with the LDC anymore. And essentially that was it. I said, and we're going to take over 100% control of it, because they were not allowing Kathy to focus on the town businesses. They had they have a pool of money that is under the LDC umbrella, and this was a direct result from Senator Nozzolio at that time. And that money can only be used for village businesses only. Kathy's efforts have secured some funding from the Ontario County IDA. That is used in turn now for the town businesses. They're town only.
What I
So
thought.
hopefully that answers that for you.
No, I wasn't as ignorant as I thought.
I just want to add, as far as village events. That you, last year, they
All right.
We'll work on, some kind of formula on rent costs, whether it's per square footage, cover the cost of the utilities, and we'll get back to you. Okay, any closing comments? Good?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. In addition, in your packet was the Director of Finance, Barb. We're up to date through March 31st, and expenditures to date. In addition, there is the planning, report from Susie Mandrino, and planning from Kim Kinsella. They are very busy. Just so the board's aware, Marty Avila, one of our key code enforcement officers, actually has had a business on the side that's actually doing a little too well. He notified Kim, I think on Friday, that he wants to cut back to part-time. So we're looking
Wow.
to,
Good for him.
it's a good, good for him. I think he's going to do a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with the town, and then Thursday, Friday to vote for the time. So he's a key individual who'll still represent the town at the county level, county planning board, that's my understanding. So we are going to start that process. There is a test that's going to take place, not for another month. So any future hire to replace Marty will be provisional based on that individual passing a test. You'll recall that Sean McAdoo left. He helps us out a little bit with commercial plan review, as well as any type of litigation that we have to enter. So we are, it's a key, and you look in Kim's report, they're busy there, so we have to move a little sooner than later here. And then, real quick, I want to thank our highway superintendent. He went through the process of purchasing the battery-powered LED radar speed display signs. I appreciate that. You'll find that, in my opinion, that we'll anticipate a lot of positive feedback from our residents, and if anything, I think over time we'll probably have to expand purchase of. I would like to share with you, I don't know if you've thought about where the placements would be, because rotation is very important, Mark. I know it's not one more thing you've been waiting for, another job assignment from the town board, but I would like to share with you the annual citation report I get for the speeding tickets, and I think that would help you. You know the roads, but I think this will assist you as well.
We've had some requests from some developments as well, so I got a couple of developments we were gonna put it up in, but we're still working on getting the software put together so we can upload this thing, and we're working with Susie on that, so.
Well, thank you, and Barb did a good job of following up. I did have Chief Deputy John Falbo, because I asked him, I said, should we purchase the stationary ones? Because I think the three main roads for citations are High Street, Gillis, and maybe County Road 42, Main Street Fishers, do we put permanent ones? He said, Jack, after a while, they don't even see them. It's like seeing a deer on the side of the road. After a while, you just drive by it, but you move them around, and it's bigger benefit that way. So I'll share the citation, the annual report with you, but I would anticipate that, over time, we would probably be purchasing more. I'd like to really take a deep dive into, like many reasons when we get the stimulus, the guidance on this, maybe an opportunity for public safety, and that would fall under the public safety branch, so thank
How
you.
many did we get?
Just one.
Just one for now?
It was like $3,400 for one we budgeted
Okay.
5,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
One to start.
Yep.
It's a battery-powered one.
yep,
so.
good. Supervisor Marion, before, I don't know if you're done or not, but I did want to publicly thank Susie for working with Integrated on that request that I'd asked about the scamming with the elderly. I had taken what she had sent to me, and I shared it with my 89-year-old mother-in-law and a few of the other folks in the neighborhood that could benefit from that, and they were very appreciative. The phishing thing, I think a lot of times we hit that click too quick, and, like just one little letter is changed, and you're into a heap of trouble. But
We're getting a lot of emails now that there's, in the last 2 weeks, Susie, I think you've seen from Gary Haddon. It wasn't addressed, Mayor Haddon. At the county, they've had emails from Jack Marin requesting gift cards and things like
we
that.
get those once a week.
Well, that's for me, Dave, really.
Yes.
That is,
I've ignored them.
Stop ignoring that one.
Sorry, Jack, I've ignored them.
I feel the love.
I think everybody in here has had their extended warranties on their automobiles run out
Yeah,
tonight.
exactly.
They all ran out tonight.
Okay, board members, any reports, any committees you'd care to report on?
For the highway, I just wanted to ask Mark, I don't want to specifically reference the location, but there was an automobile accident last week that damaged a guardrail, town guardrail. Correct. That was a project that was recently done within the last few years from the highway department, correct?
Correct.
So when we think about public service and emergency services, we often forget about the infrastructural components that go into it. And please tell the guys that put that guardrail in, they saved the guy's life.
Oh, really? Okay.
That guardrail had not been there when the town highway department upgraded that road, put a new guardrail in. There would have been large trees hit down an embankment rather than hit a guardrail. So it was a really substantial wreck, and I could not believe the guardrail, how well it stood.
Yeah.
But it saved his life.
Okay.
Please tell them that.
Without naming the road, was this an area that never had a guardrail?
Correct. Yes. Never did.
Yeah.
5 years ago, that probably would have been a very different outcome for the victim.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I'm going to ask a question. Was that part of that, remember when we filled the van?
Yep.
And we drove around with, I think, Steve, you were with us as well?
Yeah.
That was when you could walk much better, Steve, too, by the way. I noticed a limp. I'm sorry, Steve. You've been so quiet, and here I am hammering you.
Exactly.
Of course, Wes was lobbying and Mark for more billable hours here, so I have to throw it your way. But so I'm glad. Good.
Yeah, it
A
was.
positive result of that tour a number of years ago. So,
Definitely. Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Councilman Cusimano, thank you for bringing that up. Okay, if there's nothing else, board members, we'll move to resolutions.
I got one other thing,
Yes.
Supervisor Marin. Councilman Guinan and I were sharing some text messages, and I don't know if you saw it, but the DEC is getting involved in some grants for dams, up to maybe $100,000 or something, so I don't know if that's something that Kathy would work on or what, but I'd just like to explore that. I mean, 100,000 is 100,000, every little bit will help.
Or Jack probably knows more than Kathy did reach out. There is and we work with Labella, and Jack is working with the county. There's a grant application process that she's trying to find out what is involved with that particular one. I think Jack said she's going to talk with somebody from the county on that.
Yeah, so what I want to do, Councilman Condon, is not use Lavella like I usually do, but because this is with two other Ontario County towns, East and West Bloomfield, I want to go through a Director of Finance and ask, we have a gentleman, Peter Brown, that specifically, that's what he does for the county, writes grants. So I think under shared services, that he would be that individual that would submit that grant on our behalf, so.
Nice, okay, thank you.
And I'll share that with East and West Bloomfield as well, so. Okay. Resolutions, resolution number 1. And again, we have the young lady in attendance here as well. This is a provisional appointment for Aaron Brandt, who, for the assessor's aide position. Marlene is with her as well. And if you may not recognize Aaron under that mask, but Mom and Dad are Sue and Terry Sharp. And Councilman Kohovic and I, a number of years ago, we were in a leadership role with the Victor Baseball League, and I remember your mother was one of the first softball coaches in our program many years ago.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, congratulations, young lady, and welcome aboard. Number 2, and this suspect is in the room as well. This is an adjust salary for Nicholas Bodine, motor equipment operator light, going from a grade 2, step B, to a grade 3, step A.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ed, Drew, and Ed.
Mike, doesn't matter. It's approved, that's the main thing.
I just want to make sure I got it
Right?
right.
Right, Nick? It's as long as it's approved, you don't care who's first or second, do you?
Number 3, request for a certificate of liability insurance waiver. This is
So
for,
moved.
okay,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Guinan. All those in favor?
Aye.
And number 4 is the agreement for Mary Slaughter.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, commencement of civil enforcement proceedings against the owners of 31 Cobble Creek Road regarding illegal refuse storage and disposal.
So moved.
Second.
I appreciate your support on this. This has been very, those of you, the pictures were in part of your packet as well. It's been difficult, and our Parks and Rec Department's going to take care of the deed. We're going to work with law enforcement to make sure they're there, so. All those in favor?
Aye.
And number 6, after public hearing, this is the local auto amendment chapter 211 zoning regarding the light industrial district regulations.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comments? Any members of the public to address the town board?
Jack, you have to have a roll call on that?
Oh, roll call. My apologies, young lady.
Jack Marin,
Yes.
Councilman Condon,
Yes.
Councilman Kohovic,
Yes.
Councilman Guinan,
Yes.
and Councilman Cusimano.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. No public comments. Susie, do you have any public comments? Okay. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to go in executive session for rule number 2, to discuss the employment history of a particular person, as well as number 3, the proposed lease of real property when publicity might affect the value.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, did you get the first and second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll need our town attorney, Frank Pavia, as well as all of our town board members. Thank you, everyone. There'll be no action, just an adjournment.